This Equipment World video is brought to you by Chevron Delo 600 ADF Ultra Low Ash Diesel Engine Oil. It's time to kick some ash. Hi everyone, welcome back to Equipment World. You're watching The Dirt. I'm your host Brian, and today we're going to talk about the lubricant conversation from just a totally different angle. Your lubricant supplier. Most contractors look at a lubricant supplier as a store. It's somewhere you go to just purchase oil and then you walk back out the door and we'll see you next time we need some oil. But what you're missing out on is a very valuable relationship. Your lubricant supplier can actually be a tremendous resource for you. And here with us today to talk more about this is Tom Gauerke from Chevron, and he's going to dive into this relationship with us and give you an idea of what your supplier could have to offer. But before we get into that, I want to take a second to tell you about the sponsor of this video, Chevron Lubricants. Protecting your diesel engine and its exhaust aftertreatment system has traditionally been seen as an either-or proposition when it comes to choosing the engine oil that's going to protect your system. And that's exactly why Chevron spent more than a decade of R&D work developing a no-compromise formulation. Now, I don't have to tell you why a clogged DPF is bad news, but here's the real kick in the pants. 90% of that ash clogging up your DPF and then upping your fuel and maintenance costs, it comes from your engine oil. You might be thinking, why don't they make an engine oil with less ash in it then? You'll be happy to learn that Chevron agrees with you. They've developed a new ultra-low ash diesel engine oil that is specifically designed to combat DPF ash clogging. Delo 600 ADF with OmniMax technology cuts sulfate ash by 60%, radically reducing the rate of DPF clogging and extending the DPF service life by 2.5 times. Before you had to choose between protecting your engine or your aftertreatment system. Now you don't. Delo 600 ADF with OmniMax technology. It's time to kick some ash. Well, Tom, thank you so much for being on the show today. I appreciate your time.
Glad to be back.
Most companies, as I talked about in the intro, they think of their lubricant supplier as just that. It's a supplier. What are contractors missing out on by not having more of a relationship with their lubricant supplier?
Having great products is one thing. Really leveraging your supplier as a resource for what are the right things that you can do lubrication practice-wise. For example, am I selecting the optimal product for my equipment? Could I be getting a different product that either would give me longer life, better drain interval, better fuel economy, etc.? One of the other aspects is, product integrity, looking at how are you storing your products. Are there ways in which we could find that maybe do you have places where you're getting things into the product that you shouldn't? For example, dirt and so forth. What kind of transfer container do I have? Is it dirty? Are things stored outside where we could get water into a drum because it rains on top of the drum and the drum's not covered? Things of that nature would be one of the things to ask your provider to be on the lookout for. When we talk about drain intervals, are they optimized are we using oil analysis? What are the drain intervals the OE recommends in order to get the maximum out of them? And then, managing your inventory, right? Is with the products that you're buying from us, are you buying from in the right package style? Could this product actually go to bulk and you're buying it in drums and you could get a little bit more of a break by changing that package style? And does that make sense? Are you turning that inventory fast enough for the package style that you're buying and on optimizing your cash flow from doing that? And then making sure that your whole program is designed to both keep maximizing your uptime and lower your overall costs.
So you mentioned multiple things that a supplier wouldn't necessarily pick up on unless they did some sort of a site visit. As you guys do site visits, what are some of the common issues or mistakes that you see contractors making when it comes to lubricants?
Yeah, one of the things that you'll find is, from a training standpoint, are you leveraging your vendor to help train your staff? So in addition to kind of looking for things like, what's the storage and handling, also having some things knowledge about what's changed in the industry and how to make sure that information gets transmitted to the staff. So one of the changes that everybody who's been around the business for a long time, if I saw a drum of 75/90 on a property, I'd recognize that product was probably meant as to be a gear oil. Well, a lot of the modern transmissions now use 75/90 as the transmission fluid, and those products are not compatible. If you put a transmission fluid into your gear as a gear oil, you would end up shortening your bearing life in your differential. If I took a differential fluid and put it in my transmission, I could have problems shifting, etc. So some of those things that you want to make sure that your lubricant provider is also providing you as training mechanisms to your staff to keep them up to date on the things that have changed in the industry.
So what are some of the resources that are out there for contractors to utilize to kind of avoid some of these pitfalls?
I think the best training to be done is really some of the hands-on training rate. Certainly with the technology and things that we have today, recording videos is very helpful. I've had training with region managers on Teams call. And so trying to leverage all the different mechanisms that we have today as ways in order to get training out, especially considering, a lot of folks have a lot of turnover. And so you may have an on-site training this week, and next month you have somebody new that comes in the organization. So how do you make sure that we're constantly being able to kind of provide those resources and then also bring in the training for new individuals that come on? So sometimes that includes us participating in new employee training.
Again, these are all resources that most contractors don't really even think to approach their supplier about.
Yeah, that's right. And things that we're, more than happy to do and partner with our customer base with, and things that I think, go beyond just having a good quality product.
Absolutely. So just kind of overall, what additional support could a lubricant supplier offer to a contractor?
So in addition to some of the things that we've already talked about, one good thing to have, I think, is a quarterly business review where we kind of review all of those different things that we have as an offering, whether or not, a customer chooses to take advantage of those or not, to remind them that, hey, this is something that's available to you. Another thing that is, if you're currently doing oil analysis on a quarterly basis, I think it's good to have, not just taking a look at what your oil analysis reports are on the individual reports as they come in, but to do a topside review of, what does that look like across all pieces of equipment that are similar, same engines, cooling systems, et cetera, and be able to kind of look at, are my drain intervals optimized? Is the product providing me the wear protection that I'm looking for? How does that balance with what the OEs are doing? And collaborating both with the customer, the oil provider, lubricant provider, and the laboratory to make sure that we have really covered all the bases.
Well, thank you for all of this information. This is, just to kind of get contractors to view the lubricant suppliers as more than just kind of a store, if you will, to get them to understand the resources that are out there. This is really helpful.
Well, thank you, Bryan. And always glad to be able to work with the industry to help improve practices and so forth, and make a true partnership out of it.
Well, thank you again to Tom and Chevron for taking time to be on the show today. And hopefully, like I said, this has just made you kind of view your relationship with your lubricant supplier through a little bit of a different lens so that you can take advantage of the resource that's out there at your disposal. They are there for you. So take advantage of it instead of leaving that resource on the table. So hope this has been helpful. As always, thank you for watching The Dirt, and we'll catch you on the next episode.